So my Knocked Loose journey has been kind of weird, right? Well, maybe not that weird actually, but I went from being pretty skeptical about the band. I was like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I'm into this. It's not really my sound. You know, Brian's voice, I was a little unsure of, to being fairly open, to being quite interested, to the moment I saw pre-orders for their upcoming album go up, I bought a vinyl. I pre-ordered a vinyl, and I don't even have a way to play vinyl. I just like to buy a vinyl of bands I think are doing something extremely special. And so I have gone from a doubter to a full-on believer, and I am very excited because I think that, you know, after Blinding Faith, and I don't remember the other song that we listened to, you know, I think that Knocked Loose is potentially doing some of the coolest stuff in metal right now. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I have been a metal vocalist myself for about, well, I think in October it'll be 15 years, if my math is correct, which it probably is not. I've been doing metal vocals for quite a long time in a band called Kardashev. We're on Metal Blade Records. I'm also a full-time metal vocal coach. I teach people for a living to have cool death metal, deathcore, hardcore sounds that they can use safely and efficiently to make music of their own, or even just scream in their car as a hobbyist. It doesn't really matter. We're making sure they sound cool and that they're safe, right? And what I do here is I take the reaction format and I try my best to make it educational and fun at the same time. Now, I am stoked on this song. I am really stoked. You know, sometimes when you run a reaction channel, you'll have a song come up that you're not super excited about, but you know will be interesting. But this one, truly, genuinely, I am very excited about. Not just because it's Knocked Loose, and as I mentioned, I've come to really enjoy their music, but also because they've got Poppy on this song. And I had no idea that was going to happen. See, I'm not that old. I'll be 36 in a couple months. Maybe that's ancient. But I don't really engage in like a lot of online internet communities outside of like the Cardivox community, and that's kind of it. So a lot of this stuff, I don't know, it's coming down the pipe. And the only thing I remember from Poppy is way back in the day when she was making those really cool, really unsettling, really sort of abstract, surreal videos. And then I knew she got into music, but for some reason it just kind of missed me. I'm not really sure why. So I don't know what she's going to do, and I'm really excited to hear it. That's all I know. So if you like vocal education, if you like, entertaining reaction content, and if you like Knocked Loose, give the video some love, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with your friends, leave a comment. I don't know. Just being here means a lot. So let's go ahead. Let's check out Knocked Loose featuring Poppy. Suffocate is the song. Let's get into it. All right, so it's a pretty short song, so I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and I'm going to talk about a couple things. First and foremost, I'm like anxiously excited about what's going to happen because Poppy's looking spooky, which is kind of her thing, right? But let's talk vocals. Let's talk vocals here. So, you know, one thing about Brian Garris that I've talked about in previous videos and in some of our recent streams, which you should totally come hang out in, they're a lot of fun, is that he makes one vocal style work very well. And part of the way that he does that is the way that he participates with the song, the way he chooses when to jump in, the way he dances around, you know, the basic beat of the song, right? But what I want to talk about is more the tone of his voice, the scream of his voice. Now, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I'll go ahead and mention this again because this might be the first video on Knocked Loose you've seen from me. I think this is number 4, maybe 5, I'm not sure. But there are a couple important things I want to talk about when you're going for this scream, right? So this falls under the category of a pitched scream, right? Now, what does that mean? What does a pitched scream mean? Because technically everything has pitch, right? I could go right and pull it into a spectrogram, and I could see the dominant frequencies in there, and I could even probably build like a C major chord, right? But when we're talking about a pitch scream, what we mean is an audible pitch. Like I could sit down at a piano, which eventually I hope to get one back there, like a really cool, nice looking one to make these videos unique. Maybe even put a webcam over there and have a little switch so I can, that'd be cool. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But essentially I could sit down at a piano and I could find the dominant note, or the note, I should say the note underneath the distortion, right? The note underneath the grit. Now, a lot of these types of hardcore vocals, they're getting very, very popular. I'm seeing more and more student requests come in that are asking for this kind of stuff over deathcore stuff. And the thing about it is, a lot of the time when I have students who are saying, hey, I tried to teach myself to scream and I hurt myself, it's not with the crazy like deathcore. It's not like with that stuff. It's not with the death metal stuff. It's with the pitched, I did my time. It's with that sort of stuff. And the reason for this is that a cool sound in this hardcore realm is not that hard, before you get mad, is not that hard to mimic, but it is quite difficult to master. Now, let's talk about some of the things that Brian's doing that are making his voice really, really work. If you remember back to my first video, I was a little skeptical about his technique, but now I'm all for it, right? One of the first things that he's doing is he's got his jaw on a really relaxed and floppy hinge, right? When you watch him scream, it's almost like, like this sort of motion. And the reason that that's very important, and that's part of what's making his technique a little bit more on the safe side, is that jaw tension can cause tension down into the throat, into the back of the tongue. Tension in your tongue can cause tension to go down into the muscles of the larynx. And then what you can have is you can have too much tension on your actual vocal cords, right? Jaw tension is the tone killer, is a phrase I like to use a lot of the time when we're utilizing our clean voice to do anything, speak, sing, do pitch screams. It doesn't really matter, right? The second thing about it is that he's really, really he's really quite good at activating, or maybe I should say reaching, that really high head voice space, right? That really high head voice space. Now, what I mean by this, and there are terms that head voice and falsetto, they're terms that are kind of slippery depending on which coach that you tend to speak about. So for me, I'm talking about, and maybe I'll use the term differently 3 videos from now. I don't know. So sue me. But what I'm talking about is that connected but not pressed vocal cord sound of I made my mistake, right? Yeah, he's really, really, really relaxed there, right? Now, one way that I can tell that he's relaxed is because he doesn't sound like a badly voice acted anime character, right? When I think of bad anime voice acting, I think of like this sort of sound. I challenge you to a duel, sensei, huh? Right? And there's none of that, right? That comes from compressing the vocal cords too hard together, right? That's where we get that sound. And for him, it sounds very relaxed, very loose. There's none of that unnecessary grit on the vocal cords, right? The second thing is that in addition to his voice being very bright and high, the tone is still quite round, right? The tone is still quite wide. And so what I mean by the thing that's causing that is that his pharyngeal space, that's the space in the very back of the mouth, is really open. And this is actually a really easy thing for us to work on ourselves, right? So one of my favorite things to do with my students is to say, pretend you walk by a bakery and it smells really good. And most of the time they'll go, oh, and I say, okay, now do that, but less of a yawn, more your speaking voice. So less of this, oh, and now more, that smells delicious. And when you get comfortable holding your voice in that space, you'll find, assuming your breath support is on point, and if you have any questions about breath support, I do go over it in great detail in both my free metal vocal warm-ups on the cartervoxacademy.com website, as well as in our false chord fundamental course to get you screaming safely and efficiently and sounding super dope. But assuming your breath support is on point and your mouth is nice and open wide, it can make it easier for you to reach high notes that are within your range, whatever it is at that time, right? So if I'm here, ha, right? Now that is going to be something a lot easier for me to put distortion on. Now I'm not going to sound as cool as Brian because I've spent the majority of my time being inspired and modeling my voice after the cattle decapitations and the job for a cowboys is. So this is a style where for me, I'm more comfortable in my chest. Now that leads me to my next point, but we should probably listen to this song a little bit more. And then I'll save that for later. But I'm really excited to see where this is going. So far, I don't know. I don't know what my favorite Knocked Loose song is. I don't know. Let's go.
Burdened by our connection, I long for separation. In the waning glow, every breath tries hard to escape. The rain is over now. Have you found your grave? Suffocate!
All right, what? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. We're going to talk about Poppy's voice and we're going to listen to a lot of that again, but I'm not an expert in this type of music, so if I get the genre wrong and somebody does know, please let me know. But did Knocked Loose just go like cumbia? Did they just go like reggaeton, like doom da doom ba doom da doom ba doom da doom ba doom da doom ba? I used to live in a neighborhood here in Phoenix. I loved living in this neighborhood, and like straight up, there were a lot of like parties that would happen on the street, and there was a lot of music, a lot of like Latin music that had that beat, doom da doom da doom da doom da, and it's like the same beat. That is really cool. And it really worked too. Yo, if you ever find yourself in one of those neighborhoods and you see a guy on a bike driving around selling something called elotes, if you don't know what that is, buy some. I miss living in that neighborhood. My wife and I still reminisce about the elote guy on his bike. Now maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm totally off base. Maybe there's nothing similar, but it really sounded like a lot of the music that they would play. And I remember my wife and I sitting on the backyard and we'd be like having dinner, and we'd straight up be having dinner to like hang out and listen to the vibes of the music. Really cool. Poppy's voice is immaculate, right? And let me tell you something. I am like, I can't make any of you believe this, but I'm not just saying that for the views and the clicks. Her voice is phenomenal, and they did an excellent job placing it in this song. We've got a really nice doubling effect going on here, which is really making it sort of like thick and build out. And that's nice because it helps with the really bright, really sharp timbre of her voice. Her distortion is so crisp. It's like the grit in her scream sounds the way I think glacier water from like Iceland would hit, like right from the source, just like a bit like it would sting. It's so crisp, right? I just want to listen to it again because there was too much happening for me to even know, right? I'm gonna go back like I think like right here. Also, like she was doing her poppy thing, right? Her poppy thing of like looking into the camera and speaking in a really monotone, kind of spooky voice. And this gives me Hereditary vibes. Hereditary is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. One of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. That and Arrival. I don't know. By all of your failures, a feeling that you can yeah, listen to the like almost listen to that like overtone on that scream there. Wowzers.
Burdened by our connection,
Yeah.
I long for separation. In the whining cloud, every breath tries hard to escape. The rain is over now. Have you found your grave? Suffocate!
Yo, I didn't notice that at first, but she does this little voice break at the end of her scream, which sounds really cool. This is a technique I like to use a lot. You're doing a scream that has a little bit of pitch in it, and what you do, this takes a lot of coordination. So you have a scream that has a little bit of pitch in it, right? I like to do this with a lot of like my high vocals, like something like that, right? And then what you do is you actually let the grit fall away, and then when you have your voice, you do like just a little sad like right? So it has kind of this effect, right? Something like that, and she totally does that, and it sounds so cool. Oh, and then it pans from this year to this year. Oh, that's so cool. Man, this video is going to be an editing nightmare. Thankfully, Ludo's our normal editor. I have to do this one because it's going up tomorrow. So you sneaky guy, you're safe. Whoa. What an interesting, that was thick. So yeah, I know she did that collab with with Bad Omens. I never checked it out. She's I mean, she's been known for a while, but she's really getting her name out there in like the metal world. That's really cool. And I think she has a place in it. I think she has a serious place in it. With not only with screams like that, right, but with a vibe like that, with a presence like that, like she and the way she was like posed with the members of Knocked Loose, like it almost felt like she's in the band. And this might make some people mad, but if Knocked Loose added Poppy as a permanent second vocalist, I would be so for it. That's just me. Wow. I am very excited for whatever she's doing. Also, another thing, obviously, she is incredible. She is impeccable at these very aggressive, very pissed off lyrics. That's hardcore. You have to sound pissed. That's the rule, right? Obviously, I'm being a little silly. But if she took that same scream and made it more sorrowful, more leaning on despair, break my heart, it would be so good. It would be so good. So I know it probably will never happen, but if Poppy ever wanted to do like atmospheric black metal or like post rock with a lot of screaming in it, post rock doesn't have vocals. Get out of here. That would be amazing. Now, I want to talk to you about one last thing that's really, really important, right? So when we're doing these vocals, what now this isn't always the case. We're talking specifically about this song because a lot of bands do hardcore vocals and they're more in their chest voice. Matt Honeycutt, I think, is the biggest, one of the best examples. Is what I was trying to say of this sound, right? And if you haven't listened to Matt Honeycutt's band Kublai Khan, A, I'm very surprised, and B, you should. But one thing we're hearing about this is that there's a lot of head voice, right? Brian Garris's vocal folds sounded very connected, right? Ah, what's up? Ah! Poppy's vocal cords sounded a little bit more airy, right? A little bit more air was coming through, and that's actually kind of right. The two both had just like grit paired with them. Right now, you can approach this from a fry or a false chord way. It doesn't really matter because once we get to these, I mean, it matters in as much as that it will affect the sound, but it doesn't matter in the fact that neither one is going to restrict you from this like super hardcore sound. Usually hardcore vocals, when they're done in the chest, they're more false chord focused. Sometimes they've got a lot of arytenoidal rattle in there, not like the same arytenoidal activation would get like in a cattle decapitation, like not that sound. But you'll hear them sort of passively rattling. So obviously, if we're thinking about this, if we're being strategic here, the question is, okay, well then how do I get into my head voice, right? Now, there are a couple things that you can do. And in actuality, this is a good segue into a really cool announcement that we have going up at the same day that this video is going up, but we are about to have a second face on the channel. We are about to have, and I'll save it for the video. I won't go into too much detail, but we are about to have a second face on the channel joining permanently. Well, unless she hates it and she's like, I'm out of here. And then I'll say, okay, see you later. But permanently joining the channel. And she is a clean singing expert in like pop, classical, just contemporary, all of this stuff. And she's been singing and teaching students for over 10 years. And she is bringing her talents to the Carter Vox Academy team. And I'm very excited about it. So she can definitely help you get into your head voice. But she ain't here yet. So let me talk about that now. Now, because of the fact that we, in this context, you know, her specialty is beautiful, crystal clean, or, you know, gritty like rock singing. My specialty is sounding like you're a demon in the depths of the abyss of hell, right? You know, we don't necessarily have to worry about like getting rid of our vocal break. We in fact, the vocal break is pretty helpful for us. But one thing we can do is we can get really loosey goosey. And what I want you to do is I want you to rock your voice back and forth, right? And I want you to think about getting higher pitched while keeping your jaw and your neck almost like to the same degree of the feeling of relax as when you're at the dentist and they put a bunch of shots in your jaw. Now, I know that the dentist is not a very relaxing place, but enough chemicals, you're just gonna, right? Or let's say you enjoyed a little bit too much of that jazz cabbage and you're stuck on the couch like this, right? That may be another example as well. But what you're going to do is you're going to, now what might be happening when you do this is that you feel as you go high, your throat starts to squeeze. The reason that you're doing this is because you're not supporting your voice properly. So what we want to do is as we lift into the head voice in this way, in the way where we want our voice to be connected and we want more volume, we want more projection. We're not doing like a soft, you know, ooh, ooh, I don't know. I'm just making up. Ooh, that's spooky. Ooh, that's from Silence of the Lambs. Sorry. Whoops. Great movie though. What we want to be doing is we want to be engaging our core. And what should that feel like, right? Well, put your fingers up to your lips like this and blow past your finger really hard, like you're inflating a pool toy, okay? Does it feel like you're pushing out a fart? Because if it does, if like you literally feel pressure down like around your butthole, hell yeah, you're killing it, right? Now it shouldn't feel exactly like shitting, but it's kind of in the same realm, right? My abdominal muscles squeeze, the pelvic floor gets some pressure, and the squeezing of my abdominal muscles lifts my chest and my head a little bit. You can see my head bouncing up and down, right? So when I lift my voice, rather than squeezing my throat, I'm going to be engaging that a little bit, right? 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 That's a way to get into your head voice. Now, making it sound good is an entirely different thing. But let's say you have a little distortion, right? You can already do that easily, right? You can find your way to some head voicey distorted screams. And just like the other one, making them sound good is an entirely different conversation, but just getting there, these are different ways that you can do it. And you'll know you're doing just fine because your vocal cords won't hurt. Your speaking voice, your singing voice won't be affected. And that's that. So that's enough rambling. Goodness gracious, almost 30 minutes for a 3-minute song. Take that, algorithm. Take that, YouTube copyright. Suck it. Oh, that's not nice. That's not family friendly. I don't care. Anyways, excellent song. I'm very excited for what Knocked Loose is doing. I feel even more confident in my pre-order than I did when I pre-ordered it, which was fully confident. And I'm very excited. So yeah, this song, 10 out of 10. Win. Love it. Good work. If you enjoy the content, like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot to see the channel grow. Keep an eye out on the channel. I don't know if we're putting it up before or after, so maybe the video has already gone up by the time this one goes up, or maybe it's after. But keep an eye out for our announcement of our second vocal coach that's joining the team to handle all of your beautiful pop, contemporary, rock, gospel, clean singing needs. And making making videos for us as well. Check out cartervoxacademy.com for lessons, warm-ups, e-courses if you're on the go. And that's all I have. I've got a lesson in 30 minutes with my boy Nate. So enjoy your day. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out.